As we begin, this is part 3 of a study that we have entitled The Biblical View of Incantations. For those that are coming in, having missed parts 1 and 2, we're going to try to help you catch up just a little bit, because I don't want any misunderstanding. I don't want someone thinking, well, that pastor's a Scrooge. All he does is talk against times where people get together and enjoy themselves, and that's not true. I'll tell you what, I enjoy fellowshipping with people, especially who love the Lord. I love fellowshipping with the Bedford group. I love fellowshipping with the people of my own church and the times that we have together. So fellowship is not the issue. The issue is why people are meeting, their motivations, and so forth, and their desires. Now, many of the desires, I believe, are expressed in the form of incantations, especially at this time of year, but throughout the year. What do people say? Merry Christmas, Happy New Year, Happy Holidays, and so forth. But many of the people that say these things are unsaved or carnal. Therefore, we have to take a step back and rethink some of these things. What are they actually asking? What are they requesting? Well, I believe that they are requesting for either God or gods or the forces that be, like the force be with you or fate, to bring about the circumstances to make one successful without God. That is known as an incantation. It's any word, phrase, verse, spell, well-wish, prayer, or blessing, an enchantment or social or even a religious salutation that brings God into the picture to send blessing to someone or yourself, really apart from Him, with the exception that He's the one that's going to do it, sort of as a puppet on a string or a genie in the bottle that you only need at certain times. We contend that that is wrong, that we should not do that we should not be involved in asking God to bless other people who are either unsaved or out of fellowship. But that's what these things are. These incantations are believed to contain special powers to manipulate history or circumstances or people or whatever to bring about prosperity or success in one's life or the life of another. So they can, in their mind, create that which is requested. Now we know that only God can create history. Only God can bring things to pass that are non-existent. So what they're doing is actually divining, and that just simply means they're playing God. They're trying to say that the future is going to be a certain way for certain people, even though God may not be in it. They want to control history. That's what an incantation is. They want to be able to say, look, this year has been a bad year, but it will be better next year. Happy New Year. Calling down the happiness of God upon people who are Christ rejectors and God haters. Or to change into one form or another, simply meaning that they've got bad luck. Now it's going to be good luck. The lucky stars are going to shine in their favor. Now, there are some problems with this. And that is the one doing the blessing and the one receiving the blessing. You can't actually get a blessing from God until certain requirements are met. First of all, if you're blessing somebody, number one, you've got to be saved, and number two, you've got to be filled with the Spirit. That's a requirement. That's a restriction or a limitation. A carnal person or an unsaved person cannot call God's blessings down upon himself or another. It's just the nature of the beast. It's the way things are. Nor can a person then call blessings upon someone else unless that person is either coming to the light, saved, and or spiritual. There are restrictions there. And that is why the psalmist writes in verse number 3 of Psalms 10, "For the wicked boasts of his heart's desire and blesses the covetous whom the Lord abhors." Now, the word for wicked there is rasha, which simply means one who is in the wrong. He is always wrong, no matter what he does. The plowing of the wicked is sin. The prayer of the wicked is an abomination. He's always in straits with God, and that's why he's called wicked. Now, this is not just a person who does what we think are bad things. A wicked person is one who rejects Christ as Savior. He is in your family. He is in your workplace. He is in your community and nation. They're all around you. It's anybody who is a Christ rejecter. That's a wicked person. Because one who rejects Christ is following the philosophy and the strategy of evil. Now again, I remind you what evil is. It's the best of life apart from God. Well, what are they wishing for one another in a happy new year? The best of life apart from God. It is one wicked person encouraging another wicked person to go on, go for the gusto. You know, this year's going to be better. Just keep positive thoughts and it's going to be all right. Now, we're in the book of Psalms. Come back to chapter 7. Chapter 7. And verse number 11. Here is the problem with the wicked. God judges the righteous, but God is angry with the wicked. How long? Every day. So here on the eve of a new year, somebody wishes a wicked person a good year. And yet every day of that year they intend to be outside the will of God, to refuse God's place in their life. And the Bible says that 365 days that person's going to live, and God's going to be mad at them each and every day for not believing in his Son and bowing to his lordship. That's the way it is. All right, turn to the book of Proverbs, chapter 15. Book of Proverbs, chapter 15, and verse 28. Here is what God thinks of the incantations of the wicked. Verse number 28. The heart of the righteous studies to answer. I like that in conjunction with what we're doing. What are we doing? Somebody is going to say, Happy New Year to us. And we have to say in a response, okay, we want to be civil, we want to be social. But we cannot just simply glibly say, well, same to you. We have to qualify it, you see. Merry Christmas, same to you. I hope you're having a Merry Christmas. We have to qualify it by saying, well, we hope that God's true blessings are yours this Christmas. Or we hope God's best blessings will be realized in your life this year. Now, that's in keeping with the plan and program of God. What does he wish for mankind? That all men would be saved and come to the full knowledge of the truth. So therefore, we're not wrong. If God would say, well, hey, wait 1 second, you're not supposed to do that, I'm going to say to him, well, hold on here, fella. You yourself want this for mankind. This is your happy new year to them, that they be saved and come to the knowledge of the truth. Now, I'm being facetious, of course. I will never dare say that to God. But you understand, that's his desire. And we are not wrong to align ourselves with what he wants for mankind in this coming year. So that's what we're doing. We're studying to give an answer, a proper answer to an unbeliever. Because if we in turn wish them success in their wickedness, in their evil philosophy, we sin. We join them in their rebellion against God. You just can't do that. Now, the mouth of the wicked pours out evil things. It is evil for one wicked person to say to another wicked person, have a happy new year. May this year be better. That is simply wishing them success in their evil schemes. The Lord is far from the wicked, but he hears the prayer of the righteous. Now remember, an incantation can be a prayer or a blessing. However, the righteous people pray intelligently. We know how to pray within the will of God for people. Let's turn to chapter 21 in Proverbs. Verse number 10. Now remember, we're focusing right here upon this word wicked, and why you have to understand that the one doing the blessing and the one receiving the blessing are both wicked in this case. And we'll discuss some other options here in just a little bit with regard to saved people and the like. But they're all in the wrong. And their prayer is unacceptable. But what is their desire? Here it is. It is a New Year's wish. Verse number 10. The soul of the wicked desires evil. Now we will discuss here in just a little bit the model from the Garden of Eden. In the Garden of Eden, they ate of the tree of the knowledge of what? Good and evil. You remember the interpretation of that verse. It's God says, Satan calls it good, but I call it evil. It's good in his eyes, but it's evil in that he wants the best of this universe. He wants a good body. He wants to be ruler over all. He wants a good environment and a universe to live in, but he leaves me out of it. That's evil. That is status quo evil and an evil philosophy. But that's just what a wicked person wants. He wants everything that life has in store, but he does not want Jesus Christ to say one thing to him. I don't have to believe in you. I don't have to pay deference to you. I don't have to bow to your lordship. I'm master of my own fate. I don't need you. That's wickedness. And that philosophy is evil, which is what they desire. All right? His neighbor finds no favor in his eyes. When the scorner is punished, the simple is made wise, the wise is instructed, and so forth. The righteous man, therefore, wisely considers the house of the wicked. God overthrows the wicked for their wickedness. You see, during one of the years that somebody says to a wicked person, Happy New Year, this year's going to be better than the last. During one of the days of that year, a wicked person's going to die. Guarantee it. Mark it down. It may not be that year, but it's coming up. And God is going to, every year, he's sending light to these people, and they reject it, and their heart is being hardened, and their soul is being darkened. And during one of those years, on that day, singing Old Lang Syne, we're wishing you a happy new year. And during one of those days, a wicked person is going to go into eternity without Jesus Christ. All right. Verse number 27. The sacrifice of the wicked is an abomination. How much more when he brings it with a wicked mind? So, the sacrifice there is paying the price, whatever the cost. I'm going to be successful. James says that I'm going to go to a city and get gain. And he said all such rejoicing is wrong. All right, let's turn back then to Psalms 10. Turning back to Psalms 10. What do? They boast of their heart's desire, verse 3, and bless the covetous, whom the Lord abhors. All right, some explanation of this. The word halal is actually the word we get Lucifer from. But in the PL perfect, it means to intentionally and completely do something. To shine forth or declare forth, or in context, to make a boast. And of course, we saw what his boast was. His heart's desire was to live apart from God and be successful in so doing. That is his boast. But God says, boast not yourself of tomorrow, for you know not what a day might bring forth. Proverbs 27:1. And so therefore, one wicked person is blessing another, hoping, making their boast that they're going to live and be successful without the Lord. On the other hand, he blesses the covetous. Now, just a little explanation here. What did Eve display in the garden? with regard to the tree of the knowledge of good and evil. It was a tree to be desired, covetousness, to make one. It wasn't her tree. It wasn't her fruit. But she had every other tree to eat from, but the grass is always greener and the fruit is always brighter on the tree that she couldn't have. And she desired it to make her wise. And literally it showed up how ignorant she was. But she coveted that. Why? Because Lucifer said through the snake, if you eat it, you'll be as God. You see? It is an incantation. This is what's going to happen to you. I guarantee it. I promise you're going to be a god if you eat that fruit. And it's an act of covetousness. And when she took of it, it is the Hebrew word which means that she actually snatched the thing for herself. She stole it. She says, it's mine, in other words. And it's an act of covetousness. And she gave it to Adam. In the garden, therefore, both of them were covetous. When they heard the voice of God, they both ran together and they formulated a little scheme there saying, we're going to dress up in these fig leaves here and have this little reversionistic scheme that we're going to come out and we'll be all dressed in the garden and Jesus won't be mad at us because we're all dressed up in our religious garb. That is blessing the covetous. It's going to be all right. Let's just do it this way. And that's what the wicked do. They, Barak, PL, perfect, they intentionally and completely petition for prosperity, either upon themselves or another. The problem is that the 10th commandment says, thou shalt not covet anything that is your neighbor's. And often we forget that God is our neighbor, and he owns the cattle on 1,000 hills and the wealth in every mine. And he is the one who sends us these blessings so that we'll have strength and the wherewithal to serve him. But to leave him out of the picture and take from his universe is an act of covetousness. It's putting ourselves and the world around us before him. So when everybody says to one wicked person to another, Happy New Year, they're telling it to covetous people. They're petitioning fate and fortune to shine upon these people, to take from God, but to reject his very person in their lives. All right? That brings us, therefore, to where we ended this morning. And that was, in the Garden of Eden, we had three conditions, and we're down here in this section. We had three conditions. And those conditions were these. And if you will, please turn to Romans chapter 3. The first condition was Eve fell. And so therefore, she had no capability to bless Adam. In fact, in her condition, the only way she could be made comfortable and happy and satisfied was to get Adam to join her in the sin, you see. There's the cosmic evangelist. I ate of the fruit. I am now miserable because dying thou shalt die. I'm spiritually dead and now I'm dying. And the only way she's going to be happy, as it were, is Adam, here, you eat this too. Now there's an act of covetousness in that because Adam was the head of the world, the planet, and the relationship at that point. What did she want? The book of Timothy tells us she wanted to usurp his authority. She had an ulterior motive. Lucifer wanted the worship of Adam and Eve. He had an ulterior motive in telling them, you'll be a god. Incantation. Things are going to change from one form to another. You're a human, then you're going to be a god if you eat of that tree. That's what it was. And Eve said, Adam, you're going to be happy. Your eyes will be open. All she wanted was his authority. She had no capability to bless Adam. Regardless of what she could say, she could not bring it about. Secondly, after her fall, Adam could not justly bless her Now, Eve, you ate of the tree, but God bless you. It's going to be all right. There. You're just going to have a wonderful life without God. You're going to be able to live in this philosophy of evil forever. Oh, yeah? When both of them sinned, where did God place them after this? After the fact of their sin, where did God put them? Out of the garden, so they couldn't eat of the tree of the knowledge of, the tree of life, so that they would not live forever, unspiritual or spiritually dead, and yet physically alive. Then the third condition was that Adam and Eve, after both of them fell, could not properly bless one another. Oh yes, in human things, they could do certain things to make one another a little more comfortable, a little happier. But as far as eternal things, no way was God going to bless them. We illustrated this with the three aspects of this one model. After the fall, the last example of the model that we gave is perpetuated throughout all generations. The first condition, Eve was unrighteous, minus R, and she could not bless Adam with his plus R. An unbeliever cannot say something or do something that is going to add to an already completed or perfect work of God on one's behalf. Adam had not yet sinned. Eve couldn't do one thing to make it better for Adam. However, Adam could not do one thing to make it better for Eve, justly. The only thing Adam could do was to tell her the gospel, that she is now a sinner and she now needs to call out to God to rectify the situation. That's the only way it could help her in the spiritual area. Other than that, there's no prayer, no blessing, nothing that he could do that would bring her out of this condition and give her a relationship with God. But finally, both of them sinned. And so therefore now, every human being is now in this condition. When we come forth into this world, we're one wicked person in cahoots with another wicked person to try to make it the best we can without God. Problem. Let's note verse number 13. Here's where the Happy New Year's come from. Their throat is an open sepulcher. Now, in ancient days, they did not have the embalming practices. That's why Jesus was given the frankincense and the myrrh and so forth and some of these other types of incense, because Lazarus was dead 4 days, and he said by this time he does what? Stinketh. You've got an open sepulcher there with a corrupting body. That is not very pleasant. And yet that's the picture that is given of one wicked person saying to another, Happy New Year. It comes from an extremely bad breath, as it were. It's an open sepulcher. It's corruption. With their tongues have they used deceit. It's going to be okay with positive thinking. No, it's not going to be okay. I liked Nancy's prayer. We have studied this already with regard to New Year's resolutions. We would rather say that they are goals that we will set ourselves towards and so forth. Why? Because if we don't intend to keep the resolution, we have deceived ourselves, and it's the first arrogant skill, self-deception. We said and we say we're going to do it, and yet we have no intention. We're deceiving ourselves. And then when we don't do it, the second arrogant skill, self-justification. Well, I was going to do it, but this is, and then you begin justifying yourself. And then you have to become, third arrogant skill, absorbed with yourself. So New Year's resolution really is not good unless you fully intend to keep your word. Other than that, you're lying to yourself and deceiving yourself. Okay, where are we? The poison of asps is under their lips. Their mouth is full of cursing and bitterness. So much for any unsaved person wishing you a happy new year, because it's coming from the fact that it is a poisonous situation, a corruptible situation, it is a deceitful situation, and anytime one person wishes another one a happy new year without meeting the qualifications, this is where it's coming from. This is the source of the blessing. Now, we are going to turn to the book of Proverbs, chapter 3. We're going to come back to some of these other things here in just a little bit. This is actually where we ended up. Proverbs 3. And I want to deal with this concept before we move back to some other points here. But I want to deal with this first. And that is, mankind generally is in a frantic search for happiness. It sort of comes to a point. It comes to a climax at the end of the year. That is why there is everything going on. We're decorating for Halloween and Thanksgiving and Christmases. We're beginning to decorate clear into October for Christmas and so forth. Why? Because we're trying to get people distracted from looking at the realities of the world. I mean, just look at the world. We're in a mess. We're in a mess in the world today, but we don't want to get people depressed, and we want to play on the fact that there is a frantic search for happiness. The problem with this concept is we're putting happiness before truth. And anytime you put happiness before truth, you are having a pseudo-happiness. That just simply means that temporarily your emotions have been stimulated and you have a little bit of joy. Something happens to you that is good. But there is always a counteraction with that. And that is, any emotional high, unless you're filled with the Spirit, is going to result in an emotional low. And that is why we have so many people that have the Christmas blues. I heard Elvis singing that. Elvis, the spiritual giant. This afternoon, I flicked the television on, and it was 24 greatest hits from Elvis Presley. And I was impressed. The king is singing to the king. I just, that's spiritual giant. But anyway, he was singing about, I'll have a blue Christmas without you. Well, I'm glad he was the king. But he did live in Graceland, believe you me. That's where I want to live. All right. What is the right way? Truth must be first. Because when you place truth before happiness, then you have true happiness. It's built upon something solid and substantial. True happiness is a byproduct of truth. Pseudo-happiness does not produce truth, but truth does produce true happiness. All right, chapter 3, verse 13. Happy is the man that finds wisdom, and the man that gets understanding. You see, they're all looking for happiness before truth. And they're looking for it in material things, in the parties, in the gaiety, the scintillation of the lights and so forth, and the spirit of Christmas. All of that is happiness before truth. But God says just the opposite. They are not going to be truly happy. There's going to be a letdown unless they find truth first. Happy is the man that finds wisdom, that is Bible doctrine, chokmah in the Hebrew, and the man that gets understanding. For the merchandise of it is better than the merchandise of silver, and the gain thereof than fine gold. She is more precious than rubies. All the things you can desire are not cannot be compared to her. Now, here's the thing. At Christmas time, the world desires material things, and God says, you can desire them all. What shall it profit a man? You gain the whole world, but you lose your own soul. Why? You don't have truth. Truth must come first. All right? Now, length of days is in her right hand. Happy New Year to those of you who are saved and spirit-filled. Those of you who are living your lives around truth. Why? Because God says, all things work together for good to them that love him and are called according to his purpose. He is going to work history out for you and your success, your prosperity. He's going to give you the amount of time you need to crack the maturity barrier and live a life pleasing to him. All her ways are pleasantness. Her paths are peace, and so forth. Let's go down to verse 18. She is a tree of life to them that lay hold on her. And again, happy is everyone that retains her. All right, let's go to chapter 8, verse 32. Now remember that the word blessed is also the word happy. Now therefore, hearken unto me, O ye children. For blessed are they that keep my ways. Hear instruction and be wise, refuse it not. Happy is the man that hears me, watching daily at my gates, waiting at my post of my doors. For whoso findeth me find life, and shall obtain favor from the Lord. Truth produces happiness. Truth produces the conditions of the circumstances of your life that are conducive to God blessing. But he that sinneth against me wrongs his own soul, and all they that hate me love death. All right. Let's move back now to Psalms 64. Psalm 64. We want to discuss at this point something that perhaps is not understood, and we're going to try to clarify the issue for you. When Adam and Eve took of the tree of the knowledge of good and evil, part of the philosophy is cooperation now with one another. And built into their system, there is collective support. It is well-wishing, you see. And that's where all this comes from. It is one trying to build up the self-esteem, courage of another wicked person to continue on in their evil. So actually, there's a twofold pledge of evildoers. One is that they pledge collective support for each other. Let's note Psalms 64, verse 5. They encourage themselves in an evil matter. In other words, if one gets down, has a bad year, and yet this person does not want to fall down before God and say, oh God, I've been wrong, I'm a sinner, I'm accepting your son and your will for my life. They don't want to do that. Built into the system is support, so that one wicked person or a group of wicked people will band together to encourage the others to stick in there. It's going to be a better year. That's built into the evil system. That's why we have so many of these various things where people are joining together to help other people. Now, in its proper place, there's nothing wrong with that. But if it's to encourage one in an evil matter, that's wrong. And that's what we're contending here. They encourage themselves in an evil matter. All right? Let's go back to the book of Proverbs, chapter number 11. Proverbs chapter 11. In Proverbs chapter 11, we have the hand-in-hand illustration. Now, the hand-in-hand illustration is that the wicked people are going to band together against the Lord and band together against those who are righteous and band together in support of one another. Proverbs chapter 11 and starting with verse number 20. They that are of a froward heart are abomination to the Lord. It's a corrupt heart, a perverse heart. Such as are upright in their way are his delight. However, though hand join in hand, the wicked shall not be unpunished. Now, that is a commentary on this, encouraging themselves in an evil matter. It's one wicked person saying Happy New Year to another. Oh, it's been bad, but it's going to be better next year. And that person doing all they can to support the other person to be stabilized and successful in their evil. Chapter 16 of the same book. And I've gotten, let's see. I don't know how I got my notes wrong here. Let's look at chapter 16 and verse number 5. For every one that is proud in heart is an abomination to the Lord. And again it says, though hand join in hand, he shall not be unpunished. The hand joined in hand illustration is simply saying that there is a cooperative effort, there is a team effort amongst the wicked people to help other wicked people be successful. Because you see, every time some wicked person either dies or fails or is unsuccessful in their evil, and God brings conditions to bear to judge them in their life, then that is a shining example that is what God is going to do to every other wicked person. And so that's why, hurry up, we can't let this person fail. We've got to do something. We've got to boost them. We've got to give them good spirits and so forth. That's the hand-in-hand illustration. We're going to join together. God's not going to break through the line. We're going to be king of the hill, forget God. All right, but there's a second group of people, or there's a second way in which they support themselves. Psalms 94:21. Actually, let's look at verse 20. And that is, they're banding together in collective support against the righteous. Now, what does that mean? Every time a wicked person tells another wicked person, Happy New Year, and they are not depending on God, but you are, they're wanting them to succeed, but you to fail. This is exactly what they're doing. They want evil to be prospered, and they want the righteous to be diminished. That's exactly the implication. Shall the throne of iniquity have fellowship with thee? This throne which frames mischief by a law, that's a principle here. They gather themselves together against the soul of the righteous and condemn innocent blood. We tell them that they must trust Christ to have a happy new year. They say, have a happy new year depending on other people and things, other beings than Jesus Christ. So what do they have to do? Gather themselves together against the soul of the righteous. Let's look at one more verse of Scripture. We're just about done here. We just have a few minutes left, but let's go back. We're in the book of Psalms, chapter 28. Verse number 3. These 3 verses, and we'll stop. You just remember this: when the next person oozes sweetness out of their open sepulchre mouth and wishes you a happy new year the way they mean happy new year. Draw me not away with the wicked, Psalms 28:3. With the workers of iniquity, note, which speak peace to their neighbors. Oh, this is going to be a happy new year. Here's somebody at an office party, and they're all together there. They're having their toasts and so forth at an office party, and they're all wishing one another a happy new year. And there's a little clique over here that has decided that they're going to fire all this group over here and get their jobs and their salaries. Isn't that interesting? But you know what they're saying to them to their face? Lifting the glass and the champagne. Happy New Year. Oh, I hope you have a happy New Year. Tomorrow you get the pink slip, but Happy New Year to you. But mischief is in their hearts. Now, if you think they're doing that across this world and across this nation, and if you think they're doing it, think of every wicked person who tells you as a believer that has a testimony. Oh yeah, we hope you have a happy new year. Now, I hope you get what's coming to you. You're Christians, don't like you. The psalmist says, give them according to their deeds, according to the wickedness of their endeavors. Give them to the work of their hands. Render to them their desert. They get what they deserve. Because they regard not the works of the Lord, nor the operation of his hands. He shall destroy them and not build them up. Despite how many join themselves together hand in hand in an evil matter and against the righteous, God in one of those years is going to take care of these wicked people. He's going to give them exactly what's coming to them.